time. It might take hours. It might take days.
The reroll process and what you want to aim for.
Not need to reroll in Wuthering Waves.
It's gonna take weeks if you're serious to get a specific character that you want.
I think the first time I ever experienced the need to reroll was in Genshin. I remember the first 2 weeks it released on PlayStation. I got my friends to try it, and the moment we got to that gacha screen, we were all trying to see who would get the best summons. I was so frustrated when one of my friends got a 5-star super early on, but when I eventually did get to pity, I got a lolly. The same day I found myself creating new emails over and over again, trying to get the most ideal start. Keep in mind I was playing on PlayStation during this time, and creating guest accounts was not a thing for console. Creating new profiles took hours upon hours, but the thought of starting with a 5-star super early on kept replaying in my mind. This eventually became my mindset every time I started a new gacha. Regardless of how long it took, I always told myself it would be so worth after I got what I wanted. A lot of people are probably thinking the same with Wuthering Waves. Scouring YouTube, trying to find tier lists and guides on which is the best unit to grab and to reroll for.
Character in Wuthering Wave, it has to be Verena.
Give me her!
But in all honesty, the way everything is being drawn up and presented, I don't think it's actually worth rerolling in Wuthering Waves, at least in comparison to other gacha games. I'm not here to debate why you should reroll, but maybe something to think about as the release date nears. Not confirmed, but a 5-star character selector being leaked is a pretty solid reason on why rerolling won't feel like a necessity. Knowing that you're at least guaranteed the 5-star you want would be pretty awesome, and something that isn't very common in most gacha games. What's also not very common in some gacha games are the free characters you get actually being viable, let alone the main character. I've been reading up on lots of redditors talking about the viability of non-pull accounts just because of how strong the main cast is on a foundational aspect. And of course, power creep will always be present in these types of games, but as long as you can beat majority of the content, especially with those free characters, what's the use of putting so much time and effort into having the most optimized account right at the very beginning? An account that will eventually require gacha, a non-guaranteed means to stay optimized. The game eventually requires 3 teams for the Tower of Adversity, so the old teams that you have built but have been powercraft could even stay in use for a while. I remember how important shielders were like Zhongli in Genshin, or sustains and Sari like Luocha. Without these characters being on your team, you were cooked. But of course you could find ways around it, like other characters, maybe different builds, but this other way is already built into Wuthering Waves with its dodging. That's what I really appreciate about Wuthering Waves, how skill driven it can be. I don't see it as a bad thing since you can use any character you want, and as long as you know the moveset of the boss, when to dodge, and when to attack, anyone is viable. Each character has a counter attack skill after every dodge, which not only looks great, but allows you to not feel like you have to pull on a specific character to survive, allowing you to focus more on the characters that you actually want beyond what they can do. Again, I'm not here to argue with anybody and say that rerolling shouldn't be your approach, because even if you don't, others probably will. Rerollers will always be present in every gacha game. And if you're still unsure if you want to reroll or not, let me ask you this. Do you remember times when you've rerolled in previous gacha games? How long did you enjoy the game for? And did getting that character that you wanted make it better in the long run? I was always stuck up on how much better my friends' accounts were and how good their start was. Some of them still play the game, but only on the basis that they've spent so many hours or money on it already, not necessarily because they still enjoyed it. I think about the days I spent re-rolling and how much time I wasted for characters that would eventually return in the future. And yeah, I know not everybody has a currency or patience to wait for the character that they want, but doesn't it feel so good knowing that you saved up your free-to-play currencies for that one character and actually get them? It just makes me even more attached to that character that I wanted. At the end of the day, play how you want to play, but don't stress about so many things about the game. Whether you do or you don't get the start that you want, don't be afraid to switch perspectives and look forward rather than restarting. You won't always get what you want. And even if you do in the beginning, there is always room for error and improvement in the future. An important thing to remember is that this is a PvE game. I personally will be playing Wuthering Waves free to play, and if you're interested to see my journey, feel free to tag along. That's all I wanted to say. See ya.